All right, guys, today we're going to do a couple of word problems, and I want you to stop throughout and answer some questions, and then make sure you're taking notes in your math notebook as you're following along. So we'll start with this first one. Sebastian and his two brothers read an equal amount each week. They read for a combined total of 135 minutes. They read the same amount of time each week. How many minutes will each boy have read in 6 weeks? So I'm going to underline the question. How many minutes will each boy have read in 6 weeks? I'm going to circle some important information that I see. So it's Sebastian and his two brothers. So that's 3 people. I need to make sure I remember that. They read an equal amount. Their combined total was 135 minutes. They read the same amount each week. Okay, now in the question, how many minutes will each boy have read in 6 weeks? So if this 135 is them all together, I need to know how many did each boy read though? What could I do in order to figure out how many each boy read? All right, so this is a multi-step word problem. So our first step, we're going to take that 135 and we want to split it between those 3 boys to know how many each boy read for 1 week. So we need to remember our division steps. Does McDonald's serve cheesy burgers? Repeat / remainder. So now I'm going to start by taking that 135 total minutes and I want to divide that by each of the boys because this 135 is those boys all together, but I only want to know what each boy read in the 6 weeks. So this is going to be my first step of this multi-step word problem. It's going to be to divide. Now, what do you think our second step is going to be? So our second step is going to be to multiply. So once we know what each boy is, how much each boy read in 1 week, this is then asking how much they read in 6 weeks. So I would take that number and I need to multiply it by 6 weeks because this number gives me 1 week. Right, so let's do our division steps. We are going to start with divide, but I want to pretend like these 3 and 5 are not here first, and I'm just looking at this one. So 1 divided by 3. 1 divided by 3 is 1/3. So 3 can't fit into 1, so I'm going to put a 0 there. And then our next step is to multiply. I like to draw a little multiplication symbol there to remember that I'm multiplying 3 times whatever I've written up here. So 3 times 0, which is 0. Next, I have my subtraction step. I want to subtract 1 minus that 0, which gives me 1. I then have to check. What do I have to check? I have to check to make sure this 1 is less than the number I'm dividing by up here. The 1 has to be less than this number, or else I could have had another group up here. So 1 is less than 3, we can move on. So now I'm going to bring down my next number, which is this 3. All right. Once I bring down and get to my r's, 13 is not going to be my remainder, so I know I'm going to repeat, which means start all the way back at the beginning. Dividing. 13 divided by 3. Well, let's see how many times 3 can fit into 13. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Oop, too many. Go backwards 1. That's 4 times. So I'm going to write that 4 at the top. A hint of sometimes I see kids get confused where to write their numbers. Once you get to this repeat step and you start back at the top, you also start back at the top up here of your division problem. So now that we started at the divide, it goes back at the top and then we work our way down. So next we multiply 4 times 3, which gives us 12. After we multiply, we then want to subtract. So 13 minus 12, I know those guys are only 1 away from each other. After we subtract, we want to check, is this 1 less than 3? And it is. So we bring down next, and we have something to bring down, so it's all good. So my new number is 15 after bringing it down. 15 is not going to be my remainder, so I know I'm going to then repeat by starting back at the top. Dividing with my new number 15. 15 divided by 3. I have to think, how many times can 3 fit into 15? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Ooh, 5 times perfectly. So since I started back at dividing, I wrote the 5 back at the top. Now I'm going to multiply that number I just wrote, 5 times 3, which is 15. My next step is to subtract, so I'm going to subtract. 15 minus 15 is 0. Check. Is 0 less than 3? Why, yes it is. Bring down. I'm all done since I got to 0 and I don't have anything left to bring down. Technically, I have my decimal with 0 zeros after. We're not going to learn that till 5th grade, so 0 would technically be my remainder, but that's nothing, so we don't need it. So since I'm not bringing something down, I would then use that as my remainder complete. So now I answered this first question. The hidden question here was, how many did each boy read in 1 week? And our answer is 45. So for our first step, the answer is 45. But now, how many minutes will each boy have read in 6 weeks? No, that's not 45. 45 is 1 week. So what we need to do is take that 45 times 6. Because 45 is 1 week, so we want 45, 45, 45, 45, 6 times. So I start in my ones place. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry that 3. Now remember, 6 times 4, 24. I add this 3 to it. I don't add it before, I add it after. So 6 times 4 is 24, plus 3 more is 27. So now, going back to my question, how many minutes will each boy have read in 6 weeks? Each boy will have read 270 minutes in 6 weeks. Answers my question. All right, we're going to go to the second problem over here. Alan earned $1,284 a month for the past 4 months. He shared these earnings equally among his savings, his checking account, and his wallet. During the past 4 months, how much money did Alan put in his savings account? So again, we have a multi-step word problem here. What do you think our steps are going to be? Our first step, the hidden question. If we want to know how much he put in his savings account, we need to know know how much total money he has. So we're going to underline the question first. How much money did Alan put in his savings account? Circle the important information. 1,284 a month. He shared these earnings equally among savings, checking account, and wallet. So equally is very important there, that they were all the same. So now, if it's 1,284 a month, we want to know about 4 months though. What do you think we would do there? We're going to multiply as our first step. So then our second step, what did he do? So we know how much total money he had, but did they ask how much total money he had? No, they want to know in his savings account. Well, that total amount he had, he split it between his savings, his checking, and his wallet. So he's splitting it up. He's dividing it into those 3 different places. So that'll be our second step. So let's go back to our first step. I want you to solve it first. 1,284 was how much he earned in 1 month. But it asks for the past 4 months. So each month would be 1,284, 1,284, 1,284, 1,284, 4 times. Go ahead and solve that. All right, you want to start in the ones place. 4 times 4 is 16. Put your 6, carry your 1. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 1 more is 33. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 more is 11. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 more is 5. So now what does this number tell us? Well, this is dollars. This is going to be his total amount of money that he has in those 4 months. Here's our total. Now, what did he do with the total? He split it up, divided it between those 3 things. So now we're going to do that 5,136 divided into those 3 places. We have to remember our division steps. Does McDonald's serve cheesy burgers? Repeat/remainder. All right, so when I divide, what is going to be my first step that I'm going to do? We're going to see how many times 3 can fit into 5. Well, let's count by 3s. 3, 6, oh, too many. How many times can 3 fit into 5? Only 1 time. My next step is to multiply. What am I going to multiply? I always like to put a multiplication symbol here to know that I'm doing 1 times that 3, which is 3. Our next step is to subtract, so I'm going to do 5 minus that 3 I just wrote, which gives us 2. After doing that, I need to check, is this 2 less than this 3? And it is. So now I can bring down my next number. And I have this new number of 21 that I'm going to restart at the beginning. 21 divided by 3. So how many times can 3 fit into 21? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Perfect. 7 times. Now I'm going to multiply. What 2 numbers am I going to multiply? I'm going to do 7 times 3, which is 21. Next, I'll subtract those 21s and get 0. I'm going to run out of room here. I then want to check, is 0 less than 3? And it is. So I can now bring down my next number, which is 3. Now I got a 0 here. That doesn't mean that I have a remainder 0 because I have these other numbers I still have to do. So now I restart back to the beginning. How many times can 3 fit into 3? Since I went back to the beginning, I have to start back at the top. So 3 goes into 3 one time. Next, I multiply that 1 times 3, which is 3. Up next, subtraction. 3 minus 3 is 0. Check. Is 0 less than 3? You betcha. Now we want to bring down our next number, 6. And we start again. How many times can 3 fit into 6? 3, 6. Ooh, perfect. 2 times. Next we have multiply. 2 times 3, which is 6. And we're going to now subtract. 6 minus 6 is 0. Is 0 less than 3? Yep, it is. Bring down. Oop, we're all done. So that means that 0 is technically our remainder. So our answer is now 1,712. But what are we talking about? How much money did Alan put in his savings account? Well, in his checking account, he put 1,712. In his wallet, he put 1,712. And in his savings, he put 1,712. So our answer is Alan put $1,712 in his savings account. And we know that because he put it in each one of his accounts in his wallet. All right, next problem. Jasmine plans to save $25 a month for 4 years. If she does this, how much money will she have saved at the end of 4 years? So we want to know how much money will she have saved at the end of 4 years. Okay, well, we know she wants to save $25 a month. So then after 4 years, how many is this? This is going to have a couple steps. What do you think our first step is? Our first step is to figure out how many months are there in 4 years. 1 year has 12 months, so we have to do 12 times 4 as our first step. Once we do 12 times 4, we then have to take 12 times 4, and each of those months was $25. So then we're going to multiply that by 25. So we have a multi-step problem, but they're both multiplying. So now our first step is to find out how many months there are in 4 years. So that's 12 months in each 1 year, but we need to know in each 4 years. We should know this problem as one of our multiplication facts. It is 48. So I did my first step. Now, remember there is a second step. Go back to the question. How much money will she have saved at the end of 4 years? Is the answer $48? This is 48 months. So we have to multiply 25 times 48. Now there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can do this as an area model if you'd like to, or you can do it as partial products, or you can do it as standard algorithm, all the different ways we've learned. I will show you standard algorithm, and then I'll show you area model. So we want to start in the ones place. 5 times 8 is 40. So the 4 goes over here with the other 10s. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 more would be 20. Now, since I'm moving over to the tens place, I want to pretend like this is a 4 instead of it being 40. So in order to do that, I'm just going to drop that 0. Hey, just drop that 0. Now I can pretend like this 4 is just a 4. So 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 more is 10. So now that I have these two numbers, I want to add them. And I get 1,200. And that would be dollars. Now let's do area model to show another way. All right. It's not perfect, but it'll do. So if we're doing 25 times 48, I want to know 25 as also being the same thing as 20 plus 5. Okay, those are like synonyms. 25 is the same thing as 20 plus 5. 48 is the same exact thing as 40 plus 8. So now I'm gonna split those up over here. I want to make sure that 40 is on the same side of my rectangle that 8 is, and make sure that 20 is on the same side of my rectangle as 5 is. If I switch those, then that would be 45 and 28, and that's not the problem we're doing. So in this first box, I want to see what column am I in, 40, what row am I in, 20. So I'm going to be doing 40 times 20. I know that number, those numbers 40 and 20 have 2 zeros, so I'm just going to drop those zeros automatically. And if those zeros weren't there, I would just have 4 times 2, which is 8. Over here, the column I'm in is 8. The row that I'm in is 20, so I have 8 times 20. I see that 20 has that 0, so I'm just going to drop that 0, and I'd be left with 8 times 2, which is 16. Next, going down here, I'm in the column of 40 and the row of 5. So I see 40 has a 0, so I'm going to just drop that 0, which would leave me with 4 times 5, which is 20. Then we have our very last rectangle over here, the column of 8 and the row of 5. 8 times 5 equals 40. Now I have these 4 numbers. What are these numbers called? These numbers are my partial products. So what I want to do with those partial products is add them up. So I have 800, I have 160. I'm going to make sure to try my best here to line up by place value. I have 200 and I have 40. So add up my partial products because they're part of the whole product. All zeros in the ones place. 0 plus 6 plus 0 plus 4 would be 10. We have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I got the same answer when I did standard algorithm because I said they're both the same. So now going back to our question, how much money will she have saved at the end of 4 years? We can say Jasmine will have saved $1,200 at the end of 4 years. Okay, one more problem to do. Rosa has 96 beads to make necklaces for her friends. Half of these beads are purple. She uses 8 purple beads for each necklace. How many necklaces can Rosa make? Okay, again, we have a multi-step word problem. What do you think is our first step? So let's underline the question. How many complete necklaces can Rosa make? So what we need to know is she has 96 beads. Half of these are purple. That keyword half. If I see half, that means divided by 2. Okay, and then she uses 8 purple beads for each necklace. So I'm going to be first dividing those 96 beads by 2 to figure out how many are purple. I then need to take those purple beads and split them into groups of 8. Splitting them into groups is also division. So our second step is division. 2 steps of division. Our first step would be taking those total number of beads, 96, divided by 2. I want you to do this on your own. Alright, so when you've divided it, you should have gotten 48. That is our first step of division. So we have 48 purple beads. That's what that is. Are they asking about how many purple beads? No, they're asking about how many necklaces. So what we know is that she has to take those purple beads, and 8 of them is one necklace, 8 of them another necklace, 8 of them another necklace. Splitting up that 48 into groups of 8. 8. I could draw an 8. So this is one of our basic facts. That's why I've written it like this. We want to think 8 times what as our fact families would give us 48. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. That is 6 times. So now how many complete necklaces can Rosa make? Rosa can make 6 complete necklaces. All right, you're now going to have some practice problems to do on your own.